This is Eddie Hearn, Matchroom Boxing. You're watching Sporting Icons. You don't need to be anywhere else.
Now, for those of you who watched my video maybe 2 weeks ago now with Chris Eubank Jr., where it was first announced that he was going to be taking on Matt Korobov, and this is on December the 7th, yet the same day as Ruiz versus Joshua rematch. But he'll be fighting at the Barclays Center in New York as a chief support or maybe co-main event, with Jermall Charlo defending his new WBC Middleweight World Title against Dennis Hogan. Now, the likes of Eddie Hearn and quite a few other people saying, but this is a bit of a risky move for him when he could have just rematched Billy Joe Saunders, or maybe fight John Ryder, because we know that Chris Eubank Jr. had an option to fight John Ryder, and had he beaten John Ryder, then he would have been the mandatory challenger for Callum Smith. So quite a few people are like, but this is a bit of an odd move. Why would he turn down that? And as it turned out, which I've got the article here and I'll put it in the description box for you guys, go have a read of it once this video is finished, of course. By the way, make sure you are subscribed and drop yourself a comment about it, which is Chris Eubank Jr., he's doing exactly what it was that I said 2 weeks ago, which made sense to me as to why he's potentially doing it, which is, first of all, he's a natural middleweight, not a natural super middleweight. In this article, he says that on the morning of the weigh-ins at super middleweight, he's eating breakfast just to try and get somewhere close to 168 pounds. So he's a natural middleweight, so he feels much better at middleweight. And there's a reason why he's on the undercard of Jermall Charlo, because he's got some kind of agreement that he's going to be fighting Jermall Charlo for the WBC Middleweight World Title at some point in spring. So within the next 6 months or so. So that's what I said originally, that would make sense, that he versus Jermall Charlo, both PBC fighters, both middleweights, both pretty decent names. Of course, Chris Eubank Jr., he's a very good name here in the UK, as in people know him, whether you like him or whether you don't, you know who he is. And Jermall Charlo is a known fighter in America. Neither of which are superstars, but you put them together, that's the kind of fight that a lot of people would watch. And who knows, they may end up putting it on ITV box office here in the UK, as ITV have or had a deal with Al Heyman and the PBC. Not quite sure what's happening with that one. But if not, they could well put it on pay-per-view on Showtime, because these two together would be a pretty big fight, would it not? So this is pretty much what Chris Eubank Jr. is saying, that not only is he going to fight Korobov, which, by the way, Chris Eubank Jr. believes, along with many of us, that he beat Jermall Charlo last time out, but just didn't get the decision. So he's saying that he's not only going to beat Korobov, but he's going to knock him out. He's going to stop him. And then he's going to go fight Jermall Charlo for the WBC Middleweight World Title. I mean, it is a little bit strange in some ways, because the title that him and Korobov is fighting for is for a WBA interim title or something like that, or a final eliminator, whatever it is. So it's a different sanctioning body. But we know what the WBC are like. If Al Heyman and the PBC want a certain fight, they'll get a certain fight, regardless of any kind of rankings. But either way, Chris Eubank Jr., he believes that he will be fighting Jermall Charlo after this fight at some point in the spring. And that is a very, very exciting fight. For me, I would love to see that fight. And if Chris Eubank Jr. can do what I believe he can do, he should beat Jermall Charlo without too much issue. Well, I say too much issue, maybe I'm being a bit unkind, because Jermall Charlo is, of course, a fantastic fighter. And we know that Chris Eubank Jr., he has fallen short against the likes of George Groves and, of course, previously to Billy Joe Saunders. But a lot of that was the fact that he let himself down. I mean, he's saying how he was self-trained, he doesn't take advice in the corner, all that kind of thing, which I think part of that is hype. I don't think all of it's real. But regardless of any of that, I do feel that he's let himself down in certain aspects, where he's concentrating himself on the speed bag and punching so many punches every 10 seconds and things like that, trying to break records, which you can't do in a boxing ring, because nobody's going to stand there and let you unload punch after punch after punch at that kind of ferocity. No one's going to do that. They're going to be on the move. So for me, that's been pointless. But hopefully now his head is now screwed on, and he's going to concentrate and try and do what he can to get this fight with Jermall Charlo and become a WBC middleweight champion of the world. He beats Charlo, then of course you're looking at potential fights with the likes of Canelo, a Triple G, because we know that Chris Eubank Jr., he's supposed to fight Gennady Golovkin, Triple G, a couple of years back, but his dad messed up the whole deal, in my opinion, which meant that Kell Brook stepped in. He didn't have to step in, but he did step in, just so that the British fans can have Triple G fighting in the UK. because it was supposed to have been Chris Eubank Jr. They lost their pen, whatever it may be. But for me, I felt that that was stylistically wrong for Triple G at that time, because Triple G, up to that point, up till Kell Brook fight, we knew that the one weakness I felt with Triple G was that he was susceptible to the uppercut. And what is Chris Eubank Jr.'s patent move? Well, it's an uppercut, isn't it? So Chris Eubank Jr. against Triple G is actually a very, very good fight, an interesting one, and of course against Canelo as well, where we know that Chris Eubank Jr. has a very, very good chin. So if Triple G and Canelo can't stop him, who knows, right? Of course, being realistic, Chris Eubank Jr. is not going to be the favourite in either of those fights. But for me, it's not, maybe I'm being biased because he's British. But anyway, that aside, I feel that Chris Eubank Jr. against Jermall Charlo is a fantastic fight. But ultimately, Jermall Charlo does have to get past Dennis Hogan. Dennis Hogan is an Irish guy, but resides in Australia. So it would be good to see Dennis Hogan get the title. Of course, that's me being biased towards the Irish and that as well. Listen, I've got nothing against Jermall Charlo. Again, I think he's a fantastic talent. But I think that Jermall Charlo needs stiff opposition. Not somebody like Dennis Hogan, who's been moved up in weight class and got a world title shot. But yeah, I mean, Dennis Hogan, of course, I do believe that he did beat Heyman Guia last time out. Again, didn't get the decision. So either way, Jermall Charlo, he's got to come through Dennis Hogan, and of course, Chris Eubank Jr., he's got to come past Matt Korobov. Neither which are guaranteed wins, but in theory, they should really get the win and ultimately set up a big fight in the spring. So there was, in fact, a method behind the madness as to why he turned down a super middleweight fight with a Billy Joe Saunders and John Ryder, and has gone with the middleweight route. Drop your thoughts below about it, click thumbs up, and of course subscribe. Catch you all on the next video.